You understand the overall philosophy of this checklist? The purpose of the book is to provide a plan of action to deal with the very complex issues of the separation and divorce. This appears to be really complex, but with 50 years and over 100,000 hours of counseling experience, I believe the steps will help you to achieve the goals of this program process. Welcome back, sir. And so what I found myself was doing the same thing over and over and over again. And now we begin to process and be able to quantify that there's only 50 problems to do with marital reconciliation. There's only 50 issues to solve with. Once you have those 50 issues experienced, they'll repeat themselves. And out of that 50, 25 of them will repeat themselves 80% of the time. So if you can come up with a way to handle those 25, they're going to repeat themselves over and over and over and over again. So our goal was to capture what those things were. The goal was to make the process come out with a closer walk with God, achieve stability and maturity, and be able to assist others in doing this process. The verse for that, 2 Timothy 2:2, things you've heard among me, among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who are able to teach others also. Everybody worries about what progress is. Here's my definition of progress. You want to go back to where you were 6 months ago? If the answer is no, then we're making progress. So being able to go back and see and be able to process, because we get so caught up in the issues out of our past that we can't focus. I do a lot of acrostics, LLL, learn from the past, live in the present, and launch in the future. Help them to be able to get that process as they work it. So that as we start this journey gathering information, we get their history, understanding the situation, stabilizing their spiritual lives, facing the legal aspects, considering the resources available, and applying the knowledge. That's the outline of this whole book. It's going to be the most difficult thing they do in their life. My question for them is always, what?
Are you tough enough?
Are you tough enough? And I go through almost every one of them, and most of them will say, no, I'm not. But they are able to do it. And when your spouse says, I want a divorce, here's their little mantra. The mantra is something you say over and over and over again. So I make them memorize it word for word. I don't want a divorce. If you want a divorce, I can't stop you, but I don't want a divorce. You do whatever you're going to do. I can't stop you. Welcome back, Jace.
Good to be back. Thanks for your patience.
No problem. Page 2 is history. I'm going to tell all the tricks I've learned through the process of this thing, and some of them are kind of interesting. I make people write down the separation date and the date they moved out of the bedroom. Separation is when they moved out from under the same roof. So if they're sleeping in different rooms, but they're on the same roof, that's not separation. So you have two different dates, when they move out of the bedroom, when they move out of the house. Yeah, the other interesting date is the last time you were sexually involved. And then the second question is the last time when they stopped helping you or cooking for you. And then have they retained an attorney? Have you been filed on, been served as a temporary hearing, mediation, custody, property settlement, final divorce? These are the major steps that couples go through. And you want to know where they're at in that process because you deal with it differently. Keeping track of those dates help you to do that. Then third party, are you currently involved with a third party? A lot of times you'll find out that both of them have got third parties. Is your partner currently involved with a third party and the date you found out? Whenever somebody comes in, I want to know the separation date. So what I do with that separation date is I do prognostication. So Dan, what's a prognostication?
Looking forward.
Looking forward. So what I do is I take that date and I back up 6 months. And if there's a third party involved, that third party involvement started 6 months ago. They were involved for about a month, and then from the last 5 months, it's been sexual involvement. That's the primary, that's the 80% of the time, that's what's going to occur if there's a third party. 80% of those contacts are going to be through their job, either job related. They either work together or they're some kind of a customer, there's some kind of relationship between the two. We made a major social decision that was detrimental to the family unit right at the end of World War II, 1944, 45, 46, 47. During the war, we had women in the workplace. After the war, they stayed in the workplace. If 80% of the adultery is in the workplace, when you put one man in the workplace, you have a certain risk on the family for adultery. When you put both partners in, you double the risk for adultery. My wife and I, before we got married, decided that we would live on whatever I made and she didn't have to work. She'd be a housewife and a mother. So we've learned to live at a lower economic level and do without the extra stuff that you get. She could work and do volunteer work and get paid, but never buy a house or a car, a thing that required her to work in her job situation. So that those things, you double the risk of them, you double it, and you follow this process, the third party. And then how much information do they know about the third party? Down below it says, problem date of initial third party contact. Affairs usually start what? Before the separation.
6 months.
And then they meet on the job. 80%. Are they married? Most of the time, they're over 60% of the time they're going to be married. And if they're not married, then they're divorced. They have kids. They have custody, sex, age, and visitation schedule. So each of these things produce another level of complexity that when you're trying to reconcile people, you have to deal with these areas and work off the complexities, which we'll get to in a little minute. Some of you love algebra. R equals n squared minus n divided by 2. So we will talk about convoluted complexities. Page 4. Are they married? They have kids and all that. And then there's sexual contact. You think they've been sexual contact. Probably 80% of couples you work with will say there's no third party when you first get a hold of them. And they can't face the reality as a third party. And then the day of the first sexual encounter with them, that was a month afterwards, and when they stopped wearing their wedding ring, that tells you some other things. So those are things you want. The other spouse, if you have any contact with a third party spouse. So most of the time, one or the other, when there's an affair, one of the other spouses are going to go find out whether or not that's true or not by making contact with the other partner. I've got a couple right now that lived a block apart. They knew each other. The husband on the north end was having an affair with a wife on the south end. So they go through the whole thing, blow up. They both divorced their partners. The wife on the south end moves in with the guy at the north end. And then the guy at the wife of the north end moves in with the guy at the south end. So here they are, they're changing. I think there's 5 kids between them. They see each other every weekend. All they did was change partners. That's the kind of stuff you run into. But you have to be careful about making contact. What does it say? The warning on the last thing on page 4, Jamie, what does it say?
Says,
warning.
Be careful about being attracted to them or them to you.
And so the spouses of the affair, we call them APs, affair partners. The spouses of the affair partners will get together to verify their information and their issues. Yep. Commensurate in their misery. Page 5, third party. You're third party. Are you involved with a third party? Approximate day of initial contact. Here again, 6 months afterwards. If you're the one that's guilty and you want the same bit of information, married, kids, your sexual contact when the last time you were sexually involved with them. Then the other spouse, have you made contact with a third party spouse? You want to know what's going on in this dynamic and to figure out where you're at and what's going on would be the warning applies. And then partying, are you involved in partying? The purpose of partying is to numb the pain. And like your shirt's on fire, you run fast enough, you put the fire out, but it doesn't work. Are they involved in partying? Then alcohol use, is yours increasing or decreasing? And then if you got in the DUI, I got a young man, he just got his 3rd DUI because he's just in so much pain. So they use alcohol, drugs, or what else they use? Sex.
Next.
That's how that works. All right, page 6. Same there. So they use drugs, alcohol, sex, and the drugs are prescription. Are they abusing their prescription drugs? Are they using drug use? I never thought I'd see the day when it's legal in the state of Oklahoma to smoke marijuana. You get a card and eat marijuana gummy bears. I didn't know those existed. And then, are you doing it? Or are they doing it? I got a couple right now that he's got a lot of money, so he wanted to be able to use his drugs, so he bought a marijuana business. So he has a marijuana medical card issued by his company that he bought. So he's all set. So it's legal. What he's doing is illegal. It is legal, but he's still loaded out of his mind. Then have they ever been arrested? And have you been arrested? They've been arrested, charges, felonies, process. You want to see how far down? Later on, we'll show you a step-by-step of touching, how God responds to touch and bless people and work his way through these things. We're trying to pick it up back here. Progress is 3 steps forward and 2 back. Nets you 1 step forward. Test, do you want to go back to where you were 3 months ago? If the answer is no, we're making progress. And then we got the Mockler. So Dan, what's the Mockler say?
I don't want a divorce. If you want a divorce, I can't stop you, but I don't want a divorce.
So that's the process they go through. So we're working on where they're at in the practicality of the history of this thing, where they illegally were, that we're going to walk through and expand each of those. The other important part is stabilize himself, SELF, spiritually, emotionally, lovingly, and financially. So we're working on the spiritual part is, are they going to church? Are they a member? Church's name, and then I love this one. Oh yeah, I go to church every week. Yeah, I go to whatever the church is, the first church. Who's the pastor? I don't know. Just finding out who the pastor's name is very interesting dialogue. In the Bible Online, it says you can use the YouVersion of the Bible Online. And the reason I haven't used the YouVersion is that, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, it's done by Life Church in Oklahoma, here in Edmond. But it's an app that works on your phone and on your computer. And if you pick the right version, like King James or some of the versions, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little tiny speaker, and you click on that, and you click on it, and the YouVersion will read the Bible to you out loud. So you just lay your phone up on the dashboard or sit there at your desk and let it read the Bible to you. I have a seminary degree and I have a PhD. Why would I bother to listen to the Bible? I teach every Sunday. I study 10 hours a week to teach. Why do I listen to it, read it to me?
Because it's the word of God.
Nope.
You don't have time to read it. But you can.
I have time to read it. I can absorb it that way. But here's the trick.
Here.
What?
Well, you can absorb it and actually get the bigger picture when you listen to it instead of, but then study to get the micro.
Right, there's one more trick though you've all missed.
Hearing comes
Audio input.
from hearing.
Audio input, but I'm after and listening for one thing: pronunciation of names.
Oh, jeez.
That's awesome.
Methuselah, Nebuchadnezzar, and so that's what I got from it. So I just listen to that trick, and I'm after content because I can read, study it. I want to learn how to pronounce it. And I don't know if they're right or not, but I say it fast and act like I do it, and people don't bother me. So sometimes, Jack, you just got to snow them all and just keep going. Don't look back. If you hesitate, they question you. If you don't hesitate.
That's right.
You learned that in the military, didn't you? Well, as long as you're confident, you're right. So, and then the online Bible, I have people use that and get into that. And then there's some key verses I make them memorize. You need to read the book of Hosea 5 times. And we'll get into that later, why that's important. Then ministry. Agony is spiritually invigorating. What does that mean, Jack?
Sorry, what's that?
Agony is spiritually invigorating. What does that mean?
Well, I will tell you from personal experience, the more pain I was in, the more I could lean into spiritual leadership, for sure.
During World War II, they had a little phrase that says, "There's no what and the what."
Yeah, no atheists and foxholes.
Legs and foxhole. This is the same thing. If you're in enough pain, people say, "Well, Dr. Talley, he won't come see you." I said, "I know. That's okay. Let's just wait. Because the pain level is what?
No,
Too low. We'll wait for the pain level. A few weeks later, he gets a DUI and he gets out of jail, and guess what? He found my phone number. He wants to talk. The Pain Drives Change. A friend of mine wrote a book called Pain Drives Change. You know who that guy is, Jace?
I do. Damon Stoddard.
Damon Stoddard. Jace works with the organization. It's an online ministry called FFF, Fighting for Families, and they take in guys who are trying to save their marriages and runs a support group, and they run the same platform we're using. They run it just for guys. And Damon Stoddard he wrote the book Pain Drives Change. He also wrote the book. I don't know if you can read that or not.
Apathy or Action.
And so either one of those books would be good resources, especially for people who are struggling. God makes ministry out of misery. The greater the misery, the greater the ministry. So God can take nothing can enter your life that hasn't passed through the heart of God first. And so it doesn't matter what you grew up with, how bad your experience was, whatever, God can turn that misery into a ministry. And you need a mentor, and you need to be mentoring. 2 Timothy 2:2. You need to have a guy above you and a guy below you. I have a guy down in Texas. I got him on retainer. And I talk to him at least once a month, some more often. I call him up because he's actually a member of the Oklahoma State Licensing Board. And so he's my mentor because he keeps up with all the law and stuff. I don't have time or the desire to keep up with the licensing part of this thing. And then family. Maybe keep your family out of the loop. The worst problem they have is they drag their families in because they're looking for support, and they say bad things about their spouse or their family. And later on, when they reconcile, they can reconcile, but the family's still mad at the other partner. Same way with your kids. You want your kids on your side, and you want to do that. In Oklahoma, and I'm sure it's in most states, there's a legal concept called parental alienation. And if you're caught turning your children against the other spouse, you can lose custody of your children. And I'm in the middle of a really bad one right now. We got a VPO against him, and he still uses his kids to calls up so he can talk to kids while they're with their mom. He tells their 11, 12-year-old what to say to their mother, that you don't have to obey her. She's a blank, 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 blank. And the 11-year-old just calls her mom that.
Oh my goodness.
So you get into those kinds of things. So the family issues have you kept their family out of it? Here's an interesting thing. When you go through a separation, there's an interesting phenomenon that when you separate from your spouse, your family will rally around and bring you support. The other family, the other in-laws will give you support for a short period of time, maybe 3 to 6 months. And they'll give you support. But you have to understand blood's what?
Thicker than water.
Thicker than water.
Support is going to go away slowly. And you have to know and prepare for that. Now, sometimes it's able to maintain. Some families are able to keep it up. But often at the expense, like if your child's going through a divorce and it's, say, your son, you'll support him and you'll give some support to his wife. His wife's family will give support to her and a little bit to him, but over time, it'll go back to where blood is thicker than water. And so being able to see that and know that that's coming and not be surprised by it. The other reason that is done because there's a great fear of the grandparent losing contact with their grandchildren. That's the biggest fear of a grandparent. So one of the assignments that we give to people, they just kind of go, like you hit it with a rock. I just told the guy the other day, I said, every 6 months, you need to get a blank card, write it out to your mother-in-law to say, no matter whatever happens between your daughter and I, you will always have access to your grandchildren through me. Sign it. Send it every 6 months. And you can't believe the kind of responses we're getting out of that, just that note and that card. So that's where the family do not speak badly in the presence of your children about the other parent. Do not allow your children to speak badly about the other parent in front of you. why would you stop your kids talking about the jerk you were married to? Jace,
Why would I stop my children from what?
from talking badly about their mother in your presence.
Well, Exodus 20, verse 12. We teach our children to always honor their father and their mother.
And also it's, you can get caught up in parental alienation and you can lose custody of your kids if you do
Yeah.
that. All right, page 8. Priorities, help people understand their priorities: God, family, job, ministry, and recreation. What are yours? What's your spouse's priority? Here in Oklahoma, for a good redneck guy, he has two. He has a job to pay for his recreation, to go hunting and fishing, and that's all he's got. He doesn't have any other priorities, as long as he can go hunting and fishing. So help them do that. So it's God, their relationship to God. It's what you talking to God and him talking to you. That has to do with prayer and read the Bible. That is all. Nothing else. Nothing you do there. Then under family, it's a pyramid. Starts at the top with your spouse, your children, your parents, your in-laws, and extended family. And it's like a cone that goes down with more people involved. Job is what you do to provide for your family. The Bible says if you don't provide your family, you're worse than a what?
Non-believer.
Unbeliever, an infidel. And then your ministry, the ministry is what you do and how you serve God. Recreation is how you recharge your batteries. Jack, how did Jesus recharge his batteries? What did Jesus do for recreation?
Actually, my favorite time is time on a range.
There you go. Some of you don't understand that, to smell the gun smoke.
You never see anybody depressed on a gun range. They're always smiling.
You have to find out what charges your batteries and what makes, and for different people, it's different things, you know? And so, but you have to have something, some kind of hobby, some kind of thing that you collect or some kind of something. And when these things happen, people lose all those and all they do is just focus on their job, put everything in their job, or they put everything in their recreation. So you have to get them to balance out the three things. Adultery, 5 things that it does to you. Destroys your connection to God, to your spouse, to your children, basic moral character, destroys your view of black and white and right and wrong. So I want everybody to hold up their right hand and look at the palm of their hand. On the palm of the hand is a name written. It's the first name of your spouse when you got married. Turn the hand over and look at the back of the hand. That's the name, that's the middle name of the person that you were married to, if they have a different character. So the guy's name is John Lee Brown. So you look at the palm of the hand and it says John. He said, I do, I love you, and I'll be with you forever. Now you turn it around, his name is Lee, and he's a drinking, carousing, lying, cheating schmuck. What turns men or women like that? What turns them? The word adultery. Most of the time when they turn like that, there's adultery involved. Out of those adulterous experiences, 80% of them will be with the opposite sex. Now you have to be aware that 20% is going to be from what?
Same sex.
Same sex. We're running into more and more of that. So, like I asked the lady yesterday, is there a third party involved? She said, no. I said, is there a third party who's female? No. The third party who's male. She went, yeah.
Oh,
So you have to ask those 2 questions. You got to be sure that you're doing it. And so when that adultery occurs, that person turns. People say, well, I don't want to reconcile with that person. Well, something turned it, adultery turned it. Repentance can turn it back. Reconciliation works when repentance turns it back. And they get these 5 things back. They get their connection to God is reconnected. They're connected to their spouse, to their children, to the basic moral character and right and wrong. So that it helps you to mentally refer to them as their middle name, because it helps you change the focus to understand that you're not dealing with the same person. That something happened, there's a change. And emotionally treat them like they're married to your best friend. Everybody wants to know, well, what do I do? We're separated. How do I treat? How do I respond? And the Bible says, much as lies within you, be at peace with all men, women, and exes, etc. So you have to you have to treat them like they were married to your best friend. How would you do with that? Well, if they ask you to help, would you help them? And then when we get in the middle of these separation, everything turns negative and you can't think of any positive. So I make them write down positive moments and list them. What were the event? What happened? What are some positive? Because we lose the ability to be able to see positive, right and wrong. Page number 9. Understanding. Try to help them understand what's going on or what's happening with them. And we'll do these. These are just highlights, and we'll do them in detail a little bit later on. Guilt and blame. They have to blame you for everything that's wrong. And we'll show you the balance scale. They blame you for everything that they've done wrong. They'll accuse you. You don't have to worry about finding out what they're doing. Just sit and listen to what they accuse you. Real lying, cheating. What they're telling you is this is what I'm doing, so therefore we have to blame you for it. And they're ratting their own selves out. You know, you steal money. Well, guess who stole the money? And so that the blame feels like venom. It's like a spitting cobra. They spit the stuff in your eye and it burns and hurts and hurts, but do not let them just unload on you. So when I started doing that, the advice is you need to exit stage left, which means that you need to break off the conversation. Hang up the phone.
Can you hang up the phone on somebody?
You bet your life you can hang up the phone on somebody. I got a gal that her husband goes out of town on Monday, gets in the motel Monday night, gets her on the phone, keeps her on the phone for 6 or 7 hours. And all he's doing is just telling her all the things that she's wrong, what a piece of dirt bag she is, over and over. And she said, Dr. Halley, I don't know what to do. I said, lady, just hang up the phone. Oh, I couldn't do that because he'll call back and ring and he'll blow up my phone. This was back in the day when he had a little wall plug in there.
Yeah.
I said, if you unplug it out of the wall, guess what? It doesn't ring.
I'm ringing.
So when you turn your phone off, your cell phone off, it stops what? And don't turn
Ringing.
it on until the next day. You have to be
Could
able
also block their number.
you can go that far. Now you have to be careful because if you got kids back and forth, you got to be able to. You have to be able to unblock it to communicate information about kids and money. That's okay. Just don't let them unload it when you start. You leave or hang up. Do not what?
Argue.
Argue.
Proverbs 15:1. Don't go up when they go up. Don't go down when they go down. It's called a emotional roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down. If you follow them, you'll go crazy. You get a new jacket out of the deal. It's a white jacket with little buckles in the back. So then they put you in a place where they take care of you. You don't have to cook or clean or change your own bed. So if you want to do that, you can do it. But if you unhook from them and you stay stable in the line of reconciliation, you'll watch them come by you going up, wave. When they go up or down, you just wave and stay on the line. Don't follow them around. Sweetness and honey to bitterness and venom. They'll switch back and forth. They'll be sweet and nice, and then the next thing you know, they'll be spitting all this nasty stuff on you. LHA, leave him alone, leave her alone. The thing that the lady called me once, Dr. Talley, will you tell my husband to leave me alone? I work every day. He calls me 8 or 10 times a day at the work. He sends me texts, comes by and stands around my desk. So I said, why does it bother you? This is a really important concept. She said, I want him to leave me alone so I can miss him. You get that? That's really, really important. If you leave him alone, absence makes the what? Heart grow fonder.
Heart grow fonder.
And so that's what we're after is leave the other person alone, give it time for the relationship to do it. The next it says go dark. What does it mean go dark?
Stop communicating.
Except for 2 things. What are the 2 exceptions?
Kids and money.
There you go. Treat them emotionally like they're married to your best friend. You got to be nice to them. And you go ZIRR. 0 what?
Initiation.
Instant response. So the theory is and our instincts, our emotional instincts and our marital default is that if they're moving away from us, then we have to reach out and grab them and keep them from doing it. But it's like you have a little weight on your desk and there's an edge and the edge is divorced. And that weight, you keep pushing on that weight, it gets further from the edge. Pretty soon it's going to go over the edge. Here's the trick that nobody knows or understands. That if you'll back up and stop all contact, the weight will move away from the edge of the desk and move toward you. That's what you're after. Zero initiation, instant response. Absent makes the heart grow fonder unless it's blocked by a what?
Third party.
If you push, they will move toward divorce. If you back up, they will come what? Forward. And
Closer.
the thing that moves them is AT, AT, log as much good conflict-free time as they will tolerate. If they want to go do it, it's good. You go do it. If it turns into a yelling, and when you first start doing that, I tell them take 2 cars. They'll be trapped in a car. Take 2 cars, meet them there, and see how it goes. Slow down. It's a long-term process. The guy told him, I said, you and your wife have been separated now for 3 weeks. If she calls up and says, I want you to move home, what do you say? He said, I'll be right there. I said, wrong answer. Try again. He said, you mean you don't want me? I said, no, because if you don't fix what made you leave, you go back and you'll leave again. Guess what?
He didn't listen.
He didn't listen. He went back.
Yep.
So, okay.
I was gonna ask you if you listened.
So this is what I say to people. You
You
come
got the
and
answer.
you'll love it. You come and see me, you pay me money, I give you advice, you follow it, things get better. Come and see me, give me money, I give you advice, you don't follow it, things get worse, I make more money. That's not the way I want to do it, but hey, it's your money. Focus on self. SELF, spiritually, emotionally, lovely, fine. What's the airplane mask? You're on an airplane, all the masks come down, you got 2 kids with you, what do you do first?
Put your mask.
Put the kid's mask on. Wrong. Because if you pass out while you're putting it on the kids, there's nobody to help them. You take care of yourself first, stabilize yourself, then you can help them. It's the opposite of instinct of our nature. And you have to help people realize you've got to take care of yourself. If you focus on your kids, you're going to lose it. White horse. Be careful. You may be hit on by very attractive people. I tell people the white horse is going to come riding through your life, and it's going to be the most beautiful creature you ever saw, male or female, and I want you to go for a ride. And then I ask them, are you wearing cowboy boots? And this guy told me, he said, Tal, you're so full of crap. He said, I hear all this funky little white horse stuff. He said, I've never heard of such a thing. He said, my wife and I are separated, but I'm not around women. I don't do anything. I'm not in any way exposed to any of that stuff. So he goes to a conference in Phoenix. They have a break, so he's out beside the pool in there, sleeping about half in. He hears his voice talking, and it kind of wakes him up. He looks up, and this gal's bent over chatting him up. She's half in and half out of her bathing suit. And he finally says, who are you? He says, well, I'm here at the conference. Just want to know if you want to go upstairs. He says, I'm married. He said, I sat up and looked at the parking lot, and there was a white Mustang. And they'll come from the most unusual places. Some schoolmate will call you up, you haven't heard from them in 15 years now, want to know if you're going to go to dinner and just talk because they're both separated. That's a good place. Information, playing FBI. Get what you need to be able to face reality. Do not confront them. Do not give up your sources. When people start finding out things, they find some information. So-and-so said that they saw you and your, I love this one. They live in southeast Oklahoma City, here in the city. He's playing golf down in southern Texas in the Big Bend country. I mean, how 5-6 hours away. He's in a sandwich shop with a gal he shouldn't be with. And another guy walks in and sits down and looks at this guy. He goes home back to Edmond, tells his wife, he said, I saw this guy. He looked really familiar. I couldn't figure out where I knew him from. But I realize now that he and I go to the same barber. And he goes to the same barber, right? I've seen him in that barber shop. She said, well, that's my friend's husband. So she calls the husband's wife and says, Doopy 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 doop. Be sure you're what? Sins will find you out. So God will bring you, the next one says, stop playing FBI. God will bring you what you need when you are what?
Ready.
Spiritually and emotionally stable.
Enough to handle it. If you get it prematurely, you'll do stupid stuff. Then the first thing you do is you look on your phone bill to realize that he's making contact with somebody. So the first thing you do is you make a copy, go to shove it in his face and confront him with it. And you lose your source. Those sources God brings to you are like truth detectors. That if you give them up, all he'll do is change. You'll go to a burner phone, and you say you'll lose the ability to see it. But if you just leave it alone, you can watch it and see if the contact is still containing it. That is the single hardest thing for them not to do, is to run confront them. I'm going to go tell them. And if you get stuff too soon, then you'll do stupid stuff. I got a guy that, he said, I know she's having an affair. I said, leave it alone. He said, I'm going to go by there and see. So he goes by there. Sure enough, the guy's car's in there. She moved to an apartment. Her car's inside and his car's out front. So he gets out a CD and puts it in the CD player at 3 o'clock in the morning, turns the sound all the way up, plays the song, gets in his trunk and gets a baseball bat and does what?
It's not.
And Carrie Underwood's song is what?
Busted your front headlights.
Break out both headlights, carve my initials in his leather seats, and maybe he'll think before he cheats again. That was the song he was playing at 3 o'clock in the morning. When he looks upstairs, a little curtain opens up and nobody comes downstairs. So he called me this morning. He said, what do I do? I said, you get your butt over there. You call the guy, you call him up and say, I need to meet with you. And you beg him off and find out what it costs to fix his car. And you go pay to fix his car before you get arrested. That's a felony. You go to jail over that. So, Jack, you see anybody do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we've seen over the years some pretty bad stuff. I guess the worst one we heard of was this couple. He decided he would stop her from having any more affairs, so he shot her and shot himself. And they were right out of our own marriage reconciliation ministry.
Yep.
They just devolved to that point.
You'll realize that about every 2 to 3 years, you'll have a suicide, and every 4 to 5 years, you'll have a homicide.
Yeah, we got both in 10 minutes apart.
Right. Yep. Right there. So be aware these things are, later on we'll detail how much there is to involved with it, but you have to be careful. We had a guy here in Oklahoma. His wife worked at Walmart, and she had an affair partner. So she came out of work on her break, and they met in the parking lot. The husband walked up to the front of the car, put 6 shots into her in the passenger seat, and 3 shots into the driver, who was his first cousin. And then somebody in the parking lot had a gun and pulled down on him, and he shot himself. This is Duncan, Oklahoma, and the end of last year. So be careful. Let them lie to you. It adds the guilt, and then it draws them closer to a total emotional breakdown. So let them lie to you. Just as long as you know they're lying, don't confront them. God is a God of what?
Justice.
God will deal with them. He'll hit them upside the head with a 4x4, or 2x4. God will deal with them. We'll get that later again. Page 10. The thicker the skull, the what?
Longer it takes.
The harder the whack.
Oh,
This guy, he got a 34 Chevy that handed down to the family. He spent $180,000 to make it into a hot rod. I mean, the blown Hemi, everything, electric doors, beautiful car. Driving it around, I told his wife, I said, God's going to whack him upside the head with a 2x4. I didn't hear from him. He wouldn't come back, and he was mad. About 3 months later, she said, Dr. Talley, I just want to let you know that you lied to me. You set in my office, you lied right through your teeth to me. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you said that God was going to hit him with a 2x4, and that's a bull-faced lie. She said he hit him with a 4x4. She said, I was sitting in the ER and he's lucky to be alive. He's all banged up. We ran this hot rod in the back of a semi. So he's out of hot rod and banged up. So God will deal with it, whatever it takes. Domestic issues are deadly. People get killed in three-legged triangles. Anytime there's an affair partner involved, you got to tell your people, you got to be real careful. And you got to be careful about this. Be aware that that's what's going on and that it's that same way. And you have to be aware, though, how dangerous these things are. What's good for the goose is what?
Good for the gander.
Which means what? What's good for me is good for you. And so you have to be aware of these things and be aware of that when you're dealing in these domestic issues, these are dangerous things to be involved with. People get killed in them every day. And tell if there's an affair partner going on, you leave that person alone. Don't mess with them. Don't get involved with them. What's that?
Handgun.
25 auto, semi-auto.
380 semi-auto.
380. Ah,
Got double safeties on it, and both of them are turned off. I've never had to shoot anybody. I've had it laying on my knee in the IHOP restaurant while I'm writing a check to a guy. I give him back every dime he ever paid me because he scared me. Not very many people scare me, but I was happy to give him the money, and I had it laying on my knee, laying right there. So you have to be aware of those things, and people can
Okay.
get hurt. And you can watch. I've got pictures and pictures of windshield shot out, houses shot out, everything's going on. So it's a deadly situation. You have to be careful. You tell people to stay out of it. What's good for you. Hurt people. What?
Hurt people.
Hurt people.
Hurt people. Hurt people. Your hunting dog will give his life to protect you, but if he has a thorn in his paw and you try to remove it, he'll what? He will bite you.
we'll bite you.
He will attack the bear, but he'll bite you if you. So when you're dealing with people and trying to remove the thorns, you got to be careful, be aware of it. Here's the requirements that they need to have: a pure heart, their motives are right; clean hands, their acts are right; and a clear conscience before God. Integrity is the length of time between mess up and fess up. So you have to be aware of what's going on there. Character. Do not defend your character. Let your character float in the water of time and experience. Do not attack their character. Monogamy is no other relationships focused on your spouse. But people, well, you can't believe what he said to all my friends and all my. I'm making a list of all my neighbors he's talked to. I'm going to go around and tell them the rest of the story and tell them the truth. No, you're going to just leave it alone and let who you are float to the top.
Right.
They want to go and make their situation correct.
Yeah. Dr. Telly, can I share something briefly from my personal experience with that?
Sure.
So I've been fighting for my marriage a little over 5 years now. And one of the biggest challenges for me that God convicted me on about 2 years ago was to not just be physically faithful to my wife, but also to be emotionally faithful. Meaning, one of the struggles I had was, even though I was staying pure, I had trouble not imagining myself with other women. And most commonly, it occurred for me at church. So that is definitely something that a lot of these guys or women who are fighting for their marriages and standing for their families are going to run into. They're going to struggle with being emotionally faithful in their mind. And Jesus says to if you even imagine lusting after a woman, you've committed adultery in your what?
Your heart.
In your heart. So I've had to learn to keep my thoughts pure as well. And that was a process. But the gateway to actions begins in the thoughts.
Okay, very good.
Question for you, sir.
Okay.
You talked about the hunting dog will give his life to protect you, but if he has a thorn in his paw, you will try to remove it. He will try to bite you. What is the practical application of that for us? How does that affect us in terms of us helping people?
You have a guy that hit his wife for having trouble. He comes to you for help. You try to help him, and he'll turn on you and bite you because you're trying to help him because he's in so much pain.
So is that a warning for us, or how can we
Be aware.
alter?
It's a warning to be aware that hurt people sometimes hurt other people around them, because they're just in so much pain. So be really careful and don't expect these people to be appreciative and nice and everything. Some of them are going to turn on you.
Okay.
Your dog will love you. He will defend you against a bear. But if you do anything that causes him pain, the instinct is to bite. So
Okay.
you go to a lot of trouble to help these people and do everything you can do to help them. Guess what? Sometimes they complain or gripe. I gave a couple about $2,500 in counseling for free because I thought it would benefit them. I thought they needed it. They showed up at the first appointment and then what? Never saw them again. No, thank you. Kiss my tush. No, nothing. And so after a while, you get, if you're not careful, you can get real bitter, resentful. Get yourself in a bad spot.
Okay. Thank you.
Page 11. Line of reconciliation, commit to the concept of waiting. This is the hardest part for people to do is wait. Self, work on yourself, spiritually, emotionally, lovingly, financially. Leave him or her alone, sign a 6-month commitment to stay on that line and get some kind of support. The Fight Club or Fighting for Your Family, divorce care, life groups, small group, men's group. You got to get some kind of support system around you because most people can't go through this process and survive by themselves. So your job is to get them hooked up to somebody else. There's CR, Celebrate Recovery. There's most churches have some kind of Bible study support system. A divorce care is a 15 or 16-week videotape series it's all over the country. It's a really good videotape series put out by a friend of mine named Steve. Steve went through a divorce and then he sold his company and he went around the country and videotaped a bunch of guys and put together a videotape session to help people reconcile their marriages and save their marriages. So. Questions? Mr. Gardner, what's the mantra on page 11?
I don't want a divorce. If you want a divorce, I can't stop you, but I don't want a divorce.
I make them memorize it, say it over and over again because the first thing that happens, some cutie goes by and all that's gone.
Another thing you're going to run into too is a lot of these guys are going to want to change the mantra. They're going to want to adjust it, put it in their own words, or God forbid, expand upon it. Make sure you encourage them to say it word for word.
Word for word.
Don't alter it. Don't change it. Don't leave stuff out. Don't paraphrase it. Oh, man.
1 Corinthians 6, 1-8. Is the divorce final? Let's see if I don't think I have it in here. I ask people 4 questions. What are you the day before you get married? Married or divorced? I'm sorry,
Single.
married or single? What are you? You're single. What are you the day after you're married? Married or single?
Yeah.
What are you the day before you get your final divorce signed by a judge? You married or single?
Married.
Married. The day after you get it signed by a judge, then you're what?
Divorce.
Miserable. And so what you say to people is you need to act what you are. I got a guy right now, his wife filed in December of 18, started in January telling people we're exes, never been served, never been to court, no nothing, and she's dating another guy and bringing him to their church and acting like, and they haven't settled a property, they haven't settled it, they don't have any minor kids. But she go around telling everybody they're exes. And it's hard to keep the other one on the line of reconciliation when they're out having fun and going and you're home by yourself. And the worst thing they do is move back home with mama. So that's cheaper and all that. But then you got to get into a place on your own. You can't be living with your folks. So the legal process, has it been filed? Your attorney, their attorney, have you been served, temporary hearing? What's more you need? Once somebody is served, this is really important. See those capitalizations? Once you're served, do not negotiate with them. I love this. well, we can sit down together, we can resolve this and save them both a lot of money. You drop your attorney and we'll work through this thing. Well, he drops his attorney and she what?
Thanks you.
She doesn't drop her attorney. And she brings the papers for him to sign.